Athens, 2006. The city hums with its usual contradictions, ancient ruins beneath neon signs, beauty beside desperation. But in the gritty neighborhood of Sepolia, the glamour of Greece is a world away. Here, in narrow alleyways and cramped apartment buildings, life unfolds on the edge. One boy, 12 years old and impossibly thin, darts between cars on a busy street. His name is Giannis. His legs are too long for his frame, his eyes too tired for his age. He isn't playing. He's working. A tattered duffel bag slung over his shoulder is filled with watches, sunglasses, and plastic toys, items he and his brother Thanasis try to sell to passers-by for coins that might buy bread or milk. Sometimes people stop. Most of the time they don't even look. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the son of Nigerian immigrants, living in a country that has refused again and again to see them as its own. His parents, Charles and Veronica, are undocumented. They work whatever jobs they can find, cleaning stairwells, painting walls, helping elderly locals carry groceries. Still, it's never enough. Rent comes late. Electricity cuts out. Some nights the family eats rice and nothing else. Other nights, not even that. When food is short, the children eat first. Charles and Veronica pretend they're not hungry, but Giannis knows. He always knows. Their apartment is small, barely furnished, but filled with a kind of love that defies logic. 4 boys, Thanasis, Giannis, Kostas, and Alex, crowd into one mattress. They share blankets, jokes, and hunger. There is no privacy, no luxury, no guarantee of tomorrow, but there is unity. They are a team. At night, Giannis sometimes watches his parents whisper in the dark, their silhouettes etched against the glow of a candle. One such night, after an especially hard day, when even the boys couldn't hide their hunger, Charles pulled Giannis aside. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder and said with quiet certainty, "One day you will take us out of here." It wasn't a command. It wasn't pressure. It was faith. Deep, unshakable, almost irrational. And Giannis didn't laugh, didn't flinch. He just nodded. Something inside him clicked. That sentence, simple, weighty, filled with love, became a seed planted deep in his soul. He would carry it for the rest of his life. Giannis had never played basketball before, not really. He'd seen people play on the few open courts scattered across the city, but sneakers were a luxury, a basketball a dream. Then one day a local coach spotted him chasing a soccer ball in the street. What caught the coach's eye wasn't just his height, it was how he moved. Quick feet, long strides, eyes alive with instinct. The coach asked if he'd be interested in trying basketball at a nearby club, Philathletikos. Giannis said yes without knowing exactly what he was agreeing to. What he did know was this: any opportunity, no matter how strange or foreign, could be a step closer to that promise. At the first practice, Giannis didn't have shoes. His brother did, so they shared. Thanasis played one half, Giannis the other. They took turns wearing the same pair of worn-out sneakers. Coaches noticed his rawness, but they also noticed something else. He never complained, never coasted, never gave less than everything. He ran harder than anyone, studied the game like his life depended on it because it did. He walked miles to practice, sometimes in the rain, sometimes in the cold, but always there, always early, always hungry. Not just for food, but for a way out. The game came slowly. Footwork, dribbling, shooting, but he absorbed it all like a sponge. His coaches realized he wasn't just tall, he was gifted, not in a showy way, but in the way he processed things. He listened more than he spoke, observed more than he reacted. Off the court, he still worked with his brothers selling things on the street, still carried the same bag, still watched his parents ration food, but something had changed. There was now a second world forming, one where the ball bounced with possibility, where every free throw was a whisper of hope. As the years passed, his body began to shift. He stretched, both physically and mentally, taller, stronger, smarter. He played in local leagues, slowly gaining attention. Greek scouts started showing up, then European ones. By 2012, word of a mysterious, rail-thin prodigy from Athens with a Nigerian name and lightning in his step had reached even the NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks sent someone to see for themselves. That scout returned with 3 words: take the kid. But Giannis didn't feel like a prospect. He still felt like a boy carrying a silent oath. He hadn't forgotten the nights with no heat, the cracked walls, the echo of his father's voice in the dark, the look in his mother's eyes when she worried about where the next meal would come from. He didn't want fame. He wanted escape, not just for him, but for all of them. In 2013, as he prepared for the NBA draft, Giannis didn't even have a passport. He wasn't officially recognized as Greek, despite being born there. The irony cut deep. He was stateless, unknown to the very world he now had a chance to enter. The bureaucracy fought against him, but eventually, with help from the Greek government and mounting international pressure, his documents were approved. When the draft came, he sat nervously beside his family, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit. Then, the announcement: with the 15th pick in the 2013 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Giannis Antetokounmpo. He smiled wide, but inside something else stirred. This wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a mission. That night, as the cameras faded and the crowd dispersed, he found a quiet moment. He called his parents and, with a voice barely holding itself together, whispered, "We're going to be okay. I'm going to take you out." And for the first time, the promise didn't feel impossible. It felt inevitable. The moment the Milwaukee Bucks called his name, everything changed, and nothing did. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the skinny kid from Sepolia who once shared sneakers with his brother and sold sunglasses on the streets, was now an NBA player. He had a suit, a handshake from the commissioner, cameras flashing in every direction. But underneath the surface, he was still that boy with a promise burning in his chest. As the world celebrated a new international mystery entering the league, Giannis's mind was elsewhere. His family, still in Greece, still undocumented, still uncertain. He had crossed the ocean alone, and that wasn't the plan. From his first days in Milwaukee, Giannis stood out, but not for the reasons people might expect. He arrived with one suitcase, barely any English, and zero expectations of grandeur. He was humble to the core, quiet, eyes wide with gratitude and disbelief. He sent almost every dollar of his rookie salary home. There were reports, confirmed by teammates, that Giannis once ran to practice because he had wired so much money to his family that he couldn't afford a cab. The city was foreign, the winters brutal, the pressure overwhelming, but he never let it show. Every morning he was the first in the gym. Every night, the last to leave. His body wasn't ready for the NBA yet. Tall and lanky, he was pushed around by stronger, older players, but he didn't get discouraged. He asked questions, took notes, lifted weights, studied film. He didn't party, didn't chase cameras. He chased growth. Every mistake became a lesson. Every minute on the court a test. He learned how to shoot better, defend smarter, pass faster. And the Bucks organization quickly realized something crucial. Giannis wasn't just physically gifted. He had a rare mind, obsessive, focused, unbreakable. But as much as he worked on his game, his heart remained tethered to home. His family was still in Greece, waiting on the slow grind of bureaucracy to catch up with their reality. Giannis called them constantly, told them about the games, the snow, the city, but each call ended with the same aching question: when are you coming? The answer always was soon, but soon wasn't good enough. He told the Bucks plainly, if they can't come, I'm going back. It wasn't a threat. It was truth. His dream was never about making it to the NBA. It was about getting his family out. Behind the scenes, the team worked every angle: lawyers, politicians, international agencies. Finally, after months of effort, the visas were approved. The day his family landed in Milwaukee, Giannis waited at the airport like a child on Christmas morning. When he saw them, his mother Veronica, his brothers, his father Charles, walking through those arrival doors, he didn't speak. He just pulled them all into one long embrace, the kind that says everything words cannot. That night, in their modest apartment, they ate together, not in fear, not in scarcity, but in peace. For the first time, the Antetokounmpos were under the same roof in safety, with a future ahead of them. Over the next few seasons, Giannis's evolution accelerated. He started gaining muscle, confidence, vision. Coaches adjusted their schemes around his versatility. He played point guard, forward, center, sometimes all in one game. No position could define him. He became known as the Greek Freak, but behind that nickname was a relentless worker who refused to slow down. He wasn't interested in fame. He was interested in progress. By 2017, he earned his first All-Star selection. In 2019, he was named the NBA's most valuable player. When they handed him the trophy, Giannis stood on stage in a tailored suit, trying to hold himself together. He began his speech calmly, thanking teammates and coaches. But as soon as he mentioned his family, his voice cracked. "My dad," he said, pausing to collect himself. "He believed in me. He told me to always work hard, never stop. Even when I wanted to quit, he never let me." The tears came, unstoppable. The crowd applauded not just for the award, but for the authenticity. In that moment, the MVP wasn't a superstar. He was a son, and yet even that was not the pinnacle. The 2021 NBA Finals became the crucible. After a grueling season, the Bucks faced the Phoenix Suns in the championship. Midway through the playoffs, Giannis suffered a terrifying knee injury, hyperextended, the kind of injury that could sideline a player for months. But Giannis defied the odds. He returned within days, not just to play, but to dominate. Each game he pushed further. Blocks, rebounds, dunks, leadership. It was more than talent. It was willpower made visible. In Game 6, with the Bucks leading the series 3-2, he delivered one of the greatest performances in finals history. 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks, 1 title. When the final buzzer sounded, Giannis didn't scream or pound his chest. He dropped to the floor, hands on his head, overwhelmed. Around him the crowd exploded in joy, but in his heart there was only quiet, because the moment wasn't about celebration, it was about release. After the ceremony, holding the championship trophy in one hand and the finals MVP in the other, Giannis sat at the press table. Reporters asked him what it meant to win, to stay in Milwaukee, to not form a super team. He smiled softly. "I could have gone somewhere else, but that's not who I am," he said. Then, more quietly, "This means I kept my promise." Later, that night, long after the lights had dimmed and the locker room had emptied, Giannis sat alone, phone in hand. He called his mother. When she didn't pick up, he sent a message. "We did it. Now we're free." For him, that was always the real victory. Not the banners, not the rings, but the quiet fulfillment of a vow made in darkness to a father who once believed in a boy with nothing but love and a borrowed pair of shoes. By 2022, Giannis Antetokounmpo was no longer just a player. He was a symbol, a champion, a global icon, a face recognized in every corner of the world. He had endorsement deals with the biggest brands, a signature shoe, documentaries about his life, and a growing collection of accolades. But while the spotlight followed him everywhere, it never seemed to change him. He still walked into games with a backpack slung over one shoulder, like a high school student. He still laughed with childlike wonder when he saw snow. He still called his mom after every game. The arenas had gotten bigger, the audiences louder, but at his core he remained a quiet, grounded son of Sepolia who had never forgotten where he came from, or why he started. Even as the NBA world marveled at his achievements, Giannis was always thinking of something deeper. Beneath the surface of fame, he had been quietly working on something no camera had captured. Years earlier, before he had even been drafted, Giannis had whispered another promise, this one to his mother. Sitting beside her in their tiny apartment, the electricity flickering and plate still mostly empty, he had said, "One day I'll buy you a house. Then I'll buy one for everyone. No more landlords, no more threats to move. You'll all be safe." At the time, she had smiled, kissed his forehead, and told him, "Just stay kind, my son." He had nodded, but he had never forgotten. And so as the years passed and the money came in, Giannis fulfilled that promise. He bought his mother a beautiful home. He bought houses for each of his brothers. He made sure his family would never again be displaced, never again feel that sense of uncertainty that had shadowed their lives for so long. But the promise, he realized, had grown bigger than just 4 walls and a roof. His dream had expanded. It now stretched across the ocean, back to Sepolia, back to every street where children ran barefoot, where hunger wore the same face he once did. In private, Giannis began channeling millions into community programs. He didn't announce them. There were no headlines, but if you looked closely, you could see his fingerprints. New basketball courts in underserved neighborhoods, renovated gyms in Greek community centers, scholarships for immigrant families, food donations. He launched the Antetokounmpo Academy to provide education, sports training, and life skills to youth in Athens, focusing especially on marginalized communities. It was never about charity, it was about justice. Giannis had made it, but he refused to close the door behind him. Then came the moment that truly brought the world to tears. Late in 2022, Giannis asked his mother to accompany him on a short trip through Athens. She assumed it was just a nostalgic walk through old streets, maybe a visit to the old apartment. She resisted at first. Too many memories, too much pain. But he insisted. "Just come," he said. "There's something I want you to see." They drove through the same streets where she used to walk with shopping bags, where she held her children close every time sirens passed. They passed the old court where Giannis and Thanasis used to play with borrowed shoes, and then they turned a corner, and she saw it. A brand new building gleaming under the Greek sun. Modern, clean, inviting. Children laughed in the courtyard. Teachers stood at the doors. There was a basketball court with polished wood floors, bleachers, even a scoreboard. At the entrance, a large sign read, "The Veronica Antetokounmpo Academy." Just to the side, painted in gold letters above the gym doors, the Charles Court. Her knees buckled. Giannis caught her gently and whispered, "I told you I'd make a home for us. Now it's for them, too." Veronica wept. She had cried many times in her life, over hunger, over fear, over love, but this was different. This was the release of decades. The academy wasn't just a school. It was a monument to endurance, to faith, to everything they had sacrificed. Inside, the classrooms were full of books, computers, maps. The gym echoed with bouncing balls and children's laughter. Every wall held photos, not of Giannis the NBA star, but of him as a boy in Sepolia, playing with his brothers, grinning with unfiltered joy. This wasn't a vanity project. It was a gift back to the soil that had raised him. When the press eventually caught wind of it, They swarmed. But Giannis kept his distance. He gave one interview, short and direct. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about every child who thinks they don't matter. It's about remembering where I came from and making sure no one there feels forgotten." The images spread worldwide. Giannis standing beside his mother, both in tears, in front of a school that bore her name. For many, it was more powerful than any highlight reel, more meaningful than any trophy, because it wasn't about basketball, it was about a promise kept and a cycle broken. Years from now, kids who never saw him play will walk through the halls of that school. They'll read his story, not in stat sheets, but in the walls around them, in the court where they play, in the library where they learn, in the kitchen where they eat free meals, and maybe one day one of them will whisper their own promise to a mother who's just trying to get through the day. Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't just rise. He reached back, he rebuilt, he gave, not because he had to, but because he remembered. He remembered the hunger, the cold walks to practice, the darkness of undocumented life. He remembered the father who believed in him before anyone else did, the mother who sacrificed everything, the brothers who shared one pair of shoes. He remembered that night in the flickering apartment when a promise was born, and in remembering, he gave that promise to the world.